Hey folks, this is Diego Magalhães, a Senior Solution Architect at AWS, out of Toronto, Canada. Today with me is Alex Doherty, a Senior Manager of Information Security at D2L. In this session, an AdTech's journey transforming their security practices, you hear from both of us about security on AWS, how D2L tackles their security practices, and how can you do it by yourself. I hope you're having a great time watching us remotely. So let's get started. For today's agenda, we only have 30 minutes, and we'll cover what AWS offers for AdTechs, a review of security in the cloud, and key AWS security services. We'll have Alex to come and cover D2L's journey and D2L's security-focused solution. And lastly, we'll wrap with a recap and some resources for you. Now, starting with the cloud compute for education, you might wonder, when we talk about AWS, we don't focus on education right away. So I'll address this right now. AWS Global Education Businesses is divided into 4 different buckets: higher education, K-12, EdTech, which will be focus of today's presentation, and learning companies. Now, focusing on EdTechs, from an idea and beyond, even covering or passing their IPO stage, Amazon Web Services is the infrastructure standard for all education technology ecosystem. EdTechs companies can start, grow, and optimize their solutions that help the students learn every day. AWS clouds match the technology flexibility and agility needed to experiment with the scale and to serve students globally and reliably. Also, managing or helping manage colleges and university operations. Now you might wonder, how's that linked with security? And the answer to that is everything. Before I jump into the shared responsibility model slide, I want you to examine with me some key benefits of using AWS from a security perspective, starting from security as the top of our priority. That is why we listen closely to our customers to offer both them a secured environment and innovative security services that satisfy the security and compliance needs of most risk-sensitive customers. Security at AWS starts with our core infrastructure, custom built for the cloud and designed to meet the most stringent secure requirements in the world. Our infrastructure is also monitored 24/7 to ensure our customers, like yourself, data's confidentiality, integrity, and also availability. As an AdTech and also a AWS customer, regardless of your size or investment, you inherited all the benefit of our experience, tested against restricted of third-party assurance frameworks. Lastly, customers use AWS to transform their business, automating their security and compliance tasks to reduce risks and grow, and also innovate faster, freeing up resources to focus on what your customers or your core business needs. And to do that, also AWS counts with the largest network of security partners and solutions. You might want to choose to extend the benefits of AWS by using those. Now, to the shared responsibility between AWS and the customer, you might have seen this slide in the past. The shared responsibility model relieves you from the operational burden as AWS operates, manages, and controls the components from the host operating system and virtualization layer down to the physical security of the facilities in which the service operates. You as a customer assumes responsibility and management of the GaaS operating system, including things like updates, secure patches, and other associated applications. The nature of this shared responsibility model, though, provides you the flexibility and customer control that permits the deployment. As shown in the diagram, which is divided in 2 parts, the differentiator of responsibility is commonly referred to secured off the cloud versus secured in the cloud. AWS is responsible for protecting the infrastructure that runs all the services offered in the AWS cloud. Thus, call it secured off the cloud. The customer responsibility will be determined by which AWS cloud services you select. This determines the amount of configuration that you must perform as part of your secure responsibilities. For example, if you choose to use Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, or EC2. This is categorized as infrastructure as a service, and as such, requires you to perform all the necessary security configuration and management tasks, from deploying new applications, installing, updating patches, drivers, and whatnot. Now, for abstracted services such as Amazon S3 or Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Web Services operate the infrastructure layer, the operating system, the platform, and the customer access the endpoints to store and retrieve data. Customers are only responsible for managing their data, including encryption option, classifying their assets, and using identity and access management tools to enable the appropriated permissions. Now, okay, let's explore a little bit of a customer side of the shared responsibility model, or what we previously called security in the cloud. As an ad tech, you and your security team will have a number of security controls to build, run, and operate. You can see those controls on the upper part of the slide with the blue bars. This control will cover many domains, such as security visibility, threat intelligence, identity and access management, encryption, networking security, and so on. As you can see, they do overlap. As the first one, for example, security visibility will overlap with governance, risk, and compliance, or GRC. Customer might also choose to align a secure framework with industry standards, such as NIST Cybersecurity Framework, which uses the concept of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, as you can see down below the slide. You can see those pillars, and you can see the controls that we talked about aligning with those in the bottom. While protecting and preventing security events is a first line of defense, many organizations now, they do prefer or assume there are breach that might have happened, and they will now have the appropriate detective, responsive, and recover controls in place that allows them to control the incident and resume their business operation. While diving deep in each of those security services offered by AWS wouldn't fit our 30 minutes presentation today, what I want you to take away from this slide is that AWS has a breadth and depth of security service offerings that can help you meet your control objectives. As for example, AWS System Manager, the first one over there on the left, allows you to very easily patch your infrastructure systems on a predefined patch baseline and schedule, and also allows you to execute commands directly on the operating system, all of which are logged in and made available for your security team to review. AWS also offers you protective controls and services like AWS Shield, a Managed Distributed Denial of Services or DDoS mitigation service, and AWS Web Application Firewall, or WAF, which is a firewall to protect your web applications against common attacks like cross-site scripting or SQL injection, for example. To process, or maybe moving forward to detect and respond, which is right our third pillar over there, you can see Amazon CloudWatch, more specifically Amazon CloudWatch Logs, that provides you a convenient way to search through log data, identify out-of-the-box compliance events, accelerate incident investigation, and expedite responses to auditor requests. Now, let's hear from Alex how D2L approached their security journey. Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex Doherty. I work for D2L. I'm the Senior Manager for Information Security. You might ask, what is D2L? Well, D2L is a learning management system. We are SaaS-based, and we are all in AWS. We're a 20-year-old company, and we've had a mission that hasn't changed in the last 20 years, and that's to transform the way the world learns. We have over 63 AWS services that we use, and across 5 regions globally. D2L's main product is called Brightspace, and Brightspace is a learning management system. And we really pride ourselves on this system because we do a couple things differently than the competition. We have an intuitive design that's mobile-friendly first design. We've completely architected it to be scalable and resilient based on AWS technology. And lastly, we maintain ISO 27001 and 27018 compliance, and we're externally audited to that, as well as SOC 1 and SOC 2. So today I'm here to talk about some of the challenges that we face at D2L with regards to information security. The challenge that we had is we operate hundreds of AWS accounts in 5 regions across the globe. And those accounts are managed by many development teams using a DevOps model. My InfoSec group lacked that visibility across those accounts. There was so many data points and ins and outs, and that was really leaving us with a lot of unknowns and leaving us in a risky position. At the account level, it was almost impossible to leverage any of the intelligence that we saw for any kind of purpose for research or threat defense or protections, including finding any usable indication of compromise intelligence, trying to piece together risk reporting to the interested parties within D2L, and even getting down to assigning accountabilities to individuals for the remediation of risks that we might have detected in the accounts. One of the key issues that we also face is lack of process. And this is exceptionally important because if you don't write something down and follow that written process, you run into inconsistencies, you run into institutional knowledge issues, and you can create a lot of friction within the business. What happened is that one of my team members would approach and address a risk one way, where another team member would fix and address it the other way, which caused significant frustration within our development community. This also contributed to long response times for us to actually address the risks that we did uncover throughout our investigations. And finally, the challenge was it was a completely manual exercise to remediate. So there's a lot of people involved, a lot of people coordination, a lot of manual solutioning, which led to unacceptable timeframes for getting these risks closed off within the AWS environment. The first thing we did was we operationalized the use of AWS Security Hub. And what Security Hub gave us was a single view, a single pane of glass, as they say, into all of the activity of our accounts, where we could aggregate all of the data points, log files, and interesting data into a single system where we can find interesting trends and investigate potential issues across the organization. We also were able to create new sets of guardrails that we introduced so that when an account was created within our AWS ecosystem, that they had guardrails in place to follow a set of rules to make sure that the accounts were created initially in a secure manner. So once we had the operationalization completed from the Security Hub point of view, where we were able to have that data in one place, we were at the end then look at using the tools within AWS to better surface risks within our environments. We first started with AWS Config, and this is an important tool for us. It is a pretty well-known fact that security vulnerabilities within a cloud system is primarily due to misconfigurations. So a human doing something wrong or not secure to allow too much access into the system. So we looked at AWS Config. We started with the riskiest misconfigurations first. And before we even looked at launching those alerts, my team took each of those alerts, created a defined process, flowchart, and defined procedure as to how each of those alerts would be remediated within in the AWS accounts. So prior to the launch of this service, the key to our success was not only creating these runbooks, but to have the development community involved with the creation of the runbooks. So there was an agreement of how we would address those alerts. And after the creation of those processes, we then operationalized the AWS Config and Amazon GuardDuty services, where we could then identify the alert and then assign a runbook and assign an accountable party to address it. But this led into the solution that we rolled out really highlighted the fact of the issue we had with manual processes. And we were finding many alerts, high, medium, and low risk, that we were encountering, that we had to take somebody, one of my team members, to manually create tickets and assign them to the responsible parties. And that was consuming a lot of time. So this leads me to our own internal creation of what's called the D2L Security Bot. And what Security Bot does for us is built on, first of all, it's built on AWS technology. So it's built on EventBridge, DynamoDB, SQS, and SNS. And it integrates with both Security Hub and some of our third-party ticket systems in our GRC platform. So what this system does is once an alert comes up within Security Hub, the Security Bot takes the alert, verifies that it's actually an alert that's real, determines the account owner of that AWS account, and then goes ahead and creates a ticket for them on our behalf and inserts all of the language in the ticket that's relevant, plus links to the runbook, and then assigns the ticket to the responsible party. And because this is ChatOps based, and really what ChatOps is a really deep integration with a chat-based system, and we use Slack at work. So a ChatOps based integration where then the security bot would actually Slack the owner of that risk and notify them of the issue, and then they would have to, within our SLOs and SLAs, react to that vulnerability. And then over the course of the life of the risk, security bot would then we call them, we remind them every 7 days that the risk is open, and we have escalations built into the security bot as well. And then finally, once the dev team owner actually addresses the risk, we are able to then, security bot actually looks to verify the risk is actually closed and closes on our behalf, and it inserts documentation both in our GRC platform, our governance, risk, and compliance platform, as well as our ticket systems. So this immediately gave us the ability to reassign the human that was spending about 200 hours over the course of a year logging tickets to more interesting work that really requires human eyes to be on. And this automation was only possible because we had a very clearly defined set of runbooks, processes, and procedures that we can then codify and automate with what gave us this distinct advantage. And with that codification, with that automation through Security Bot, the results were fantastic. Just some highlights of some of the results. The first one here is our time to first response. So we measured the time from the time the alert was created to a ticket was assigned to an accountable party. Before we started this engagement, it was about an average 1 week, and we got that down to less than 1 hour. That's a 99.99% improvement. That's fantastic. But the real crown jewel here is the mean time to repair, or the time it takes for the vulnerability to actually be addressed. And what we've built in with Security Bot is the auto remediation. So if a Security Bot sees a known vulnerability and a known risk, it'll actually fix it on behalf of the account owner and notify them that has been fixed. So with those auto remediations built in, we have that reduced from 1 month to 10 minutes. And another way of looking at that is we've reduced that from 42,000 minutes to 10 minutes. So a 4,200 times increase in response time. It is fantastic. So what that has done for us is we've been able to remove that human component, which creates an error-free, consistent process by which we follow, and everything that's action within the system is documented and used for reporting and compliance purposes. And what that really allows us to do is accelerate further improvements within the AWS ecosystem. For instance, using Control Tower, where we wanted to introduce that governance into accounts where a guardrail is great for setting up initial expectations, but the Control Tower senses that drift from the original guardrail and helps to correct that. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Diego.
Thanks, Alex. Lastly, I want to talk about how you set yourself with a cloud secured strategy. Starting with number 1, the understanding of your data classification, and 2, create an inventory of your security tools. Followed by 3, which is really have an alignment with laws and regulations that you need to follow. After that, you need to start evaluate each workload and looks at methods like number 4, which is RASI, or Responsibility and Assignment Matrix, and take advantage of tools like the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, or CAF, and well-architected reviews. You can start creating roadmaps for adoption, following best practices, iterating over your security epics, and creating your baselines, as seen in number 7 and 8. Finally, you will have a proved process and the necessary tools to improve your security practices. All of that without losing agility. Now, closing our conversation, I want you to understand how to operate with agility and control, all within the same time. There are 4 aspects to operate with control. First, customers want to monitor and get visibility into how their resources and applications are being used and how they are performing. Followed by to make sure they know how that is auditable. Everything from how those resources are configured to which users are accessing them and what policies are being enforced. Third, they want to take advantage of operational action on all those resources to manage them at scale, logically group them, automating operational tasks, and safely and secure at scale. And of course, they want to continue to optimize and analyze to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and improve their security posture. AWS secure benefits include unprecedented visibility, and real-time automation provides customers with the ability to perform continuous, ongoing security compliance assessment and remediation, as we saw with this security bot presented by Alex. Having the visibility into who made that change from where in near real time allows your customers and yourself as an ad tech to detect misconfigurations and no compliances and respond quickly to prevent risks from materializing. Lastly, you joined this session to learn, and you should keep learning beyond with the resources from AWS training and certification for security. According to Global Knowledge, IT decision makers report having the most difficult time finding qualified cybersecurity talent. So training has never been more important. We offer more than 25 digital and classroom courses for you and your teams around security, identity, and compliance. You can also showcase your expertise by pursuing and achieve the AWS Certified Security Specialty certification. I want to thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this session. I also want to thank Alex for presenting on behalf of D2L. You should have now all the tools that you need to start your transformation of security practices after today's session. Don't forget to complete the survey. Thank you.